Hey, if you're like me and you own one of these old buzz boxes and you're not sure if you're welding with the right amperage, because honestly, these are very loosey-goosey, there is a way to find out, and we're going to find out today. Let's go for it. Well, let's get into this. So what I got here, I've got my rods. The suggested amperage for these 7014 E7014 rods is 110 to 140. But I don't know for sure if my welding machine is actually accurate when I'm setting the amperage with the slide gauge. All right, to help understand what the machine is doing, I'm going to use this digital clamp meter. So what I do, I'll clamp it on the electrical lead, the positive side of the electrical lead. And like I said, this is AC only, so there's no reverse. But whatever the positive side is what you measure. If you have an AC DC one, you still measure whatever positive that you're using, because DC can be switched around. AC only, digital clamp meter, I'll put it on the positive lead, and then I'll set up a camera and I'll get a piece of steel to weld on, and it'll just be a flat steel. It won't be a joint. It'll just be a straight weld. So let's get her set up and let's see how accurate this baby really is. And understanding what the machine's doing may help me understand why my welds aren't coming out the way I prefer them to. So let's go. Let's get her set up and we'll see what we can do with this. All right, here we are at the machine. I'm getting the thing set up. So I just wanted to bring up a point that you may not have noticed or even thought about. But the first, on this old machine, now maybe they're different on some of the other buzz boxes, but the 25 amps through to 50 amps, these lines are only in 5 amp increments. So once you get down past 50, down to 230, they are 12 amp increments. And to know, let's see if I can show you, where on this bar, because this bar is an inch thick, inch high, where on this bar that you would be measuring from. Well, near as I can tell, without a manual on this, so that would be the very top of the bar would be where you would measure from. So it goes up there to 25, that's as high as it'll go, but down to 230 at the top of the bar is the highest it can go on top of the bar right there. So they provided this little notch for the rest of the bar to sit down in. So I'm calling the top of the bar is the measure point. That's what I'm looking for, the measure point. So I wanted to do 120 amps. So since they're 12 amp increments and I'm trying to calibrate, let's do exactly what it says. So let's go 110 right there down to 122. So that's just in the cool range of this unit. And then you hold it, mine's a little bit loosey-goosey, lock it down like that. So we should be getting 120 amps on this meter down here, or roughly 120 amps. So I was shooting for 122 amps, according to that machine. But you notice it came up to 100 when I first started, which would be this first little bit here. It was at 102 or so amps, 10 amps short. And then it dropped back into the 90s. So that's interesting. So it tells me my machine isn't running where I want it to be. Now, it's not a bad scale, like the flux come off nice. I've been finding that my machine is running, felt like it was running too cold all the time. So when I was trying to get a nice weld out of it, it would always go down to hard to start. So now that tells me that I have to overestimate where I want it. So let's go back, let's go to readjust it and try it again. So I'm thinking I need to add at least one more full bar, because this was coming in on the amp meter Well, it dropped as low as 96 amps, but it went up as high as 104. Averaged, I think, right around 100 amps. But it's set at 122 amps. So I'm going to set it up to, what would that be? So 134 amps down here. So 2 bars down, 134 amps, and see what that does. Pretty decent weld. Better than the first one, I think. Let's have a look. It's still a little high, the weld, but you can see that now I'm just getting at, right there, it's a little bit mounded up. So you can see I'm just getting back to where the minimum requirement is. I think, what I say, 110? Yeah, 110 to 140. So a good, I'll just show you on here what it is. 110 to 140, right there for a 1/8 rod. So I'm going to crank it up one more time because I wanted to go a little hotter than 110. So I'm only at 110 right now. So let's go back over here and we'll crank her up a little bit more. We'll put her up one more. So according to this, at 12 amp increments, according to this machine, that's 130, 110, 122, and 134. So let's do one more. Let's go one more line. So that would be a 146, which you would probably never set it. I think that's right at that's above the actual recommended amount. So let's see if at 146 on the machine, what it actually is welding. And I noticed when I was using these rods that I had to do that. And I thought, well, that seems odd that I would have to set it up to that. All right, get in the right spot so there's no reflection. I found it odd that I might not be able to get rid of that reflection. You guys can still see it. All right, right there. And I thought, well, that's kind of hot. But let's try it one more time. So at 146 on the machine and see what we're getting on the amp meter. All right, that's the third weld. I come up to like 122, 124, stuff like that. So it's 20 amps off. Higher I go seems the worse it gets. I have it set on the machine according to the machine specs at 146, which is above the range. But this weld here is right in, actually come out quite nice. No splatter on it. Actually, there was some splatter right there, so it might be getting a little hot for these. Like this one splattered onto that one. So let me clean this up a little bit, and I'll run a beads beside those and see what happens. But I'm going to change up the machine. So we need to go, let's say 20 amps, because that's kind of what it was on the last one. It seems to be getting worse the higher we go. So 146, and the next one would be 158, and then then after that another 12 would be 170. So 158. Let's try it 158. See what happens there. That was 158 on the machine, on the gauge. Sorry, right there. The weld was feeling quite hot. And as you saw, it was coming in at one, there's still 20. So it seems to be leveling out at 20 amps over. But if you wanted a hot weld, that would do it. It felt hot to me. But now I know that my machine is out. So when I'm trying to get low temperatures, I'm going to do one more. All right, let's do it one more time, and we'll set it at 170 and see if we can get this to the maximum range of those rods. So that was 170 on my machine, and as you saw, it produced 140 amps on the amp meter. This is the weld it produced. It's very splattery. There's a lot of splatter in it. The slag comes off very easy, but it's getting hot. You can see the weld isn't super nice, but it deslags really easily. Let's take a look here. All right, so we know now that the machine is not welding to the correct amperage according to the slide selector. So what are we going to do about it? Can we do anything about it? Well, the only thing we can do right now is pull off the cover on the welder and see if there's any way to adjust that or calibrate that unit. So I'll spin us around and I'll see if I can easily get the cover off, which I think I can. It's a few screws. Some fool went and put handle and wheels on, so that might make it a little harder. However, it is what it is and we'll make it work. So let's get around and see if we can get the cover off this baby. First step, we'll unplug the power. Probably not a good idea to take the cover off with the power plugged in. 240 volts, a little bit more than I want to deal with. Well, here she is with the cover off. And I was just looking her over before I turned the camera on. There's really no way to adjust the, like not to calibrate it. I mean, it's kind of set the way it is. There's no mechanical way to adjust the amperage. Yeah, so that's it. There's nothing down here. It's all fixed. So I'm not going to monkey with that. I'm going to clean the machine out, put her back together, and I'll have to remember that, actually I might write on the front here for future me, because a future me will probably forget that it's off by 20 amps and adjust accordingly. All right, well, we tried. That's all I can do. Well, there you have it. With a simple, inexpensive tool, we were able to see whether my welding machine was working well, something you could do at home for yourself. I didn't expect it to be out by 20 amps. That's a lot. But knowing that, that explains some of the issues I've been having with my welds. Now I can adjust accordingly. If I don't get decent welds now, well, then I have to work on myself. Yeah, it went well. I'm happy with the results. A little bit disappointed we weren't able to readjust the machine to match the diagram. But it is what it is. Simple black marker can make the adjustment. So yeah, with that said, I'm very happy, and I'm happy you guys came along for the ride. And hope everyone has a great weekend, and stay safe out there, everyone. And we'll see you in the next one.